Okay, so to give you all a minute to settle in, I have a lightning round question for our readers today. And that is a trope that you can't get enough of, whether as a reader or a writer, and can be any genre. We'll start with Nicole.
I'm gonna have to say enemies to lovers. I love to read it. I love to write it. I like high conflict. I like how dynamic it can be. I like having a really big journey from start to finish. So it's just every time it's fun for me.
Awesome, love it. David?
As far as romance goes, and I know I'm a mystery writer, but I love romance. I love the forced connection, tight quarters where they're in a situation and falling in love.
Awesome, love it. Your connection is a little spotty, David. I'm sure there's nothing you can do about it. There is a big storm out in Arizona tonight, so we'll we'll do our best, but just letting you know, just in case it cuts out for your reading. MJ, what about you? Favorite trope?
Definitely also enemies to lovers. I absolutely love that trope.
Hope the writers in the audience are taking notes. Sam, what about you?
I'm going to say the same thing, enemies to lovers, but kind of combined with forbidden love in terms of, maybe there's a class disparity at play,
Mm,
keeping the characters apart. I always love reading that and I like writing it.
yeah, Forbidden Love is my favorite romance trope for sure. And what about you? Favorite trope?
Well, having just learned what tropes are, revealing myself to be a first-time author, I am really dedicated to incompetent police. I don't want anyone to comment on the fact that I live in East Texas. Just let that slide. Incompetent police is what I'm going with.
Yeah, I mean it's a great element of a mystery, especially for like amateur detectives and whatnot. Okay, so to start off our readings, we have Anne Faulkner. If everyone else can please turn off their video and audio.
My first novel was published last July, and I'm a co-author with Shelley Thrasher. It's her fifth novel, but my first. We collaborated in this grown-up version of a Nancy Drew book, where, as octogenarian senior sleuths, we discovered the culprit who is perpetrating AI-assisted scams against residents in an East Texas nursing home. Research for this cozy mystery provided us an opportunity to interview some fascinating neighbors, and introducing the book to our communities has been a great pleasure. I'm a retired teacher and staff development facilitator in the Dallas colleges. The selection I've chosen is from scene 2 of chapter 4 in the nursing home hoax. I don't know whether you can make anything out of the cover, but there it is. Two main characters, Taylor Bradford, a retired attorney who practiced law with her father after her graduation from law school 60 years ago, and Mary Lee Connor, a friend with whom she has recently reconnected. They're in the early stages of developing a business as senior sleuths, righting wrongs committed against elders. The two have heard that the town's police chief refuses to investigate possible cyber crimes committed against local nursing home residents. They decide to visit him in an effort to resolve the victim's distress. Precisely at 9:30, Mary Lee and Taylor were shown into the New Eden police chief's office. Though they were clearly his seniors in age, Chief Rufus Williamz rudely failed to stand to greet them and waved them vaguely toward the two chairs facing his desk. "What can I do for you girls?" he asked. Mary Lee winced. How could someone in his late 50s refer to two octogenarians as girls? If he'd been her student, she'd have set him straight. Mary Lee reached across the desk with an outstretched hand. "We haven't met, Chief. I'm a newcomer to New Eden and a great admirer of this beautiful old town. My name is Mary Lee Connor, and you've met Taylor Bradford, but you may not realize that before she came back here to practice law with her father, I knew her as runner-up for Sweetheart of the University of Texas in 1962. Taylor, take a bow." There, maybe that little tidbit would surprise the obviously set in his ways officer and make him view Taylor in a different light. Taylor curtsied and, without speaking, sat down and turned to Mary Lee as if giving her the go-ahead. Chief, we've heard some disturbing reports from a friend of ours who's a patient at the Silverado nursing home. She's been there only a short time, rehabbing from an accident, but some of her fellow residents have apparently been victimized by a cyber criminal or criminals. Do tell, miss. I've heard some rumors about that situation myself, but I want to be sure I have my facts straight. Maybe you watched the popular TV series Dragnet back in the 60s. I try not to miss a single rerun. He straightened up in his chair. Just the facts, ma'am. That's my motto. Well, I'm simply a concerned citizen, not an investigative reporter, but I'll try to be as accurate and factual as possible, Marilee said, trying not to grit her teeth. Our friend at the nursing home, Dr. Edith Aida, first learned of the problem in the beauty salon at Silverado. The beauty salon? That's about the most reliable place possible to gather information, I suppose, he smirked. Probably about as good as a barber shop, she reported, which I imagine is quite a popular and reliable spot. The chief straightened his mouth into a thin line and then grunted. Yep, Missy, you may have a point there. And exactly what did your friend hear at the beauty salon? Taylor clutched the arms of the chair she was sitting in, but Mary Lee shook her head slightly. She could do this. She paused for emphasis and all but batted her eyelashes at the sour-faced man who was looking everywhere but at her. One woman told us how she'd foiled a fake request for money from someone claiming to be her grandchild because she knew he was in Costa Rica and didn't have access to a phone. The chief pulled out a pen and a notepad. What is this woman's name? When did this happen? And how much money did the caller ask for? I have no idea. I'm just telling you what she said. And what does it matter if no crime was committed? Just the facts, ma'am. That's all I want and need. The chief pulled out an Altoid and stuck it in his mouth. What can you tell me about an actual crime? That's what I deal with here. Marilee wanted to choke the Altoid out of his mouth, but she restrained herself. Another woman was in the beauty shop waiting for a shampoo, and out of the blue, she burst out crying. Then, in a few minutes, she collected herself and whispered, as if she was ashamed, the same thing happened to me, and I paid up. The chief finally scratched a line or two on an apparently brand new notepad. The victim's name, please. Marilee had to take a deep breath to keep herself from screaming. I don't know. She was tempted to ask Taylor to rescue her from this situation, but suddenly the obnoxious policeman laid his pen beside his pen. How can I do my job with absolutely no information? I'm not a miracle worker last time I checked. She cleared her throat and asked in her most professorial tone, what might we do to be of assistance? The chief finally made eye contact, but pulled another Altoid from a nearby tin and slipped it into his mouth before he spoke. Names would definitely have helped, but in fact, I do know what you're referring to, and the Altoid clacked as he rolled it around in his mouth. Since the matter is already under investigation, I won't have anything more to say on the subject. Marilee finally resorted to lowering her eyes, perhaps squeezing out a tear. Oh, Chief, if you could just give us in the residents of Silverado a little reassurance, it would go a long way to calming their fears. Those old people are terrified of either not helping someone who loves and needs them or being swindled in a con job that robs them of their savings. Can't you please tell us something? She was flat out of feminine wiles. The chief turned to her, his face reddening slightly. Well, I suppose I could tell you that I intend to turn the case over to the Texas Rangers. We at the city level have no business trying to catch foreign criminals. Surely you agree, miss? Merely returned his remark with a gracious expression. Of course, I understand, Chief, but from what I learned online last night, this isn't a matter of foreign hackers trying to break into corporate files. This is a local criminal trying to extort hard-earned savings from unsuspecting senior citizens. This type of crime would be small potatoes to the intentional crowd and international crowd. And incidentally, I doubt the Rangers even have a cybercrime department. He flapped his hand in the air like he was swatting a fly. Whatever. I can't talk about an ongoing investigation. And besides, what can you possibly know about this type of crime anyway? The Rangers help us out with crime scene investigations and cold cases, so I fully intend to ask them to check out this situation. Merrily rose and turned to Taylor. We've taken enough of this gentleman's time. Without further prompting, Taylor jumped to her feet and followed Mary Lee out of the office. When they reached their car, Mary Lee already had her head between her knees before she heard Taylor say, "Well, that went well. Give me another minute. I'm visualizing world peace, trying to keep my yogurt down. I can't believe that creep holds a responsible position in this town." You did fine, sweetheart. Maybe you have a better appreciation for what I've been up against for the last 50 odd years. You've done a great job this morning, but it's time for a professional to step in. Wouldn't you agree? Merely raised her head tentatively. Who do you have in mind? Me, silly. I mean me, a mature Nancy Drew on the case.
That was awesome. Thank you. Who knew that beauty shops were such a social hub?
And they are, really.
Yeah. And I can see why incompetent police is your favorite trope.
Thank you.
Here, next up, we have David Pederson.
All right. Well, hello. I'm David S. Pederson, and I'm going to be reading today from my 14th mystery, A Death After Dinner, which will be out this July and is available now for pre-order on the Bold Strokes Books website. The book takes place in England in 1951 at the country estate of Sir Roderick Endicott and his wife, Lady Olivia. Our hero, Professor Liam Cuthbert, his young friend and romantic interest, Bruce, and a collection of others have gathered at the estate for a long weekend. Things start off shaky when Liam arrives with Bruce, whom he introduces as his valet, in tow, and they get worse when one of the guests drops dead after dinner. This abridged scene takes place in the grand salon at the estate before dinner, where the family and guests, including the rather nasty Oscar Maxwell, have gathered. "Ah, this must be the popular Mr. Babcock everyone's been talking about. Your valet, Liam," Oscar said. "Has everyone been talking?" Liam said. "Only good things, I'm sure," Olivia said. "What exactly is he doing here, Olivia?" "Don't be rude, Oscar." "I'm not being rude. I'm asking a simple question. Valets are generally found not in the grand salon, nor are they typically in the dining room. Yet I've heard he's joining us for dinner, too." "He's not just a valet. He's also my assistant, and he's my friend," Liam said. "As such, I do hope you'll show him every courtesy, Oscar." "Your friend. You do swim in the most interesting social circles, Liam, but almost always in the murky, shallow end. Well, aren't you going to introduce me? I mean, after all, if he's being treated like a guest, he might as well go all out." "Of course, Mr. Maxwell. May I introduce Mr. Bruce Babcock? Mr. Babcock, this is Mr. Oscar Maxwell." "How do you do, sir?" Bruce said, sweating. "How do you do? And this, Mr. Babcock," gesturing to the little fellow and a woman next to him, "is my assistant, Harry Grundle, and his lovely wife, Ruth." "How do you do?" Bruce said. I understand, Mr. Maxwell, that you're a cousin of Sir Roderick. Yes, I'm his first cousin on his mother's side. Roderick's father was Sir Endicott. As the only son, Roderick here became Sir Endicott, the fourth Earl, upon his father's death. My mother, she married Adam Maxwell, Esquire. I didn't inherit a title or much of anything when my parents died, except for a townhouse with back taxes due and some property I had to sell to pay the bills they left. Sir Roderick, on the other hand, not only became the Earl of Carrick, but inherited Chatterfield Park and all the land around it, including the tenant farms. You act like it's my fault my mother married better than yours. Besides, that land you sold was a gift to your parents from me, Sir Endicott said. A drop in the bucket compared to what you could have given them. You sound bitter about the whole thing, Oscar, Liam said. Oscar took out a cigarette case, lit one, and inhaled deeply, letting the smoke out through his nose before turning to his assistant. Harry, that was my last cigarette. Here, take my case and refill it, won't you? Certainly, Oscar, Harry said, taking the silver case from him and hurrying away as Oscar turned back toward Liam. Now then, what were you saying? I'm bitter? Well, yes, I suppose I am. I didn't have a particularly loving home life as a child, you know. My father was a mean drunk. But it made me resilient. I built my design business from the ground up, and I fought for it every step of the way. Maybe I didn't always play fair. Maybe I still don't. But I win more than I lose now, and I intend to keep it that way. Be that as it may, Oscar, it's not fair to be bitter about it with Roderick. Maybe not, but life isn't fair. Believe me, I know, Oscar said as a footman came up to them, fresh glasses on his tray. Another sherry, anyone? I can't stand sherry. I'll wait until dinner. Now then, what do you think of the new wallpaper in here, Liam? It's a change. Everything in here is new, except for those awful family portraits Olivia insisted on keeping. They're Roderick's family, and they're priceless heirlooms. I wasn't about to put them into storage so that you could hang something modern and cubist. Abstract expressionism, not cubist, Olivia. But, be that as it may, these old things detract from everything else I've done in here. New wallpaper, new furniture, new lamps, new carpets. Yet those god-awful portraits remain and stare down at everyone with looks of disdain. If they look on you with Oscar with looks of disdain, they're quite wise. Oh, Liam, you're so witty. Or think you are. Christmas is less than 3 weeks away. Will there not be decorations in here? Bruce said. Oh, there will be, Sir Roderick said, but not until Christmas Eve. It's tradition. Decorations and the tree will go up on the 24th and remain until the Epiphany on the 6th, which coincides perfectly with the winter ball on the 5th. The Christmas decorations will match everything else, of course. No stuffy, stodgy arrangements, ornaments, and tinsel this year. It's time for a change. What's time for a change? Margot said as she, her husband Wade, and Lark approached the group. He's talking about the winter ball, Margot. He wants to coordinate Christmas with the redecorating he's done. I didn't say I'd coordinate the Christmas decorations with the redecorating. I said I'd coordinate the decorations with the rest of the ball decor, Liam. He turned and smiled slyly at Lark. Nice of you to show your pretty little face at last. You didn't come down to tea, and you've been keeping your distance ever since I arrived. I've been trying to, but I suppose I really can't avoid you all weekend. And Margot and Wade finally convinced me I should be social, so here I am. And so here we all are, and I must say, you're looking lovely this evening, Lark, as always. That sly smile again. He seemed amused. Thank you, Oscar. I'd say the same about you, but you already know it. I can't help being attractive. I have good genes, as they say. My father, bastard that he was a handsome man. My good looks are the only decent thing he ever gave me. Certainly not your modesty, Wade said. Modesty is a waste of time, Mr. Saxby. Well, it's certainly not wasted on you, Lark said. A pity such a handsome man is a complete arse. Your opinion, and you didn't always feel that way until I came to my senses. You mean until I came to mine and sent you packing? Who poured you into that little black dress tonight, by the way? Some pretty little upstairs maid? I managed just fine on my own. Well, it fits you like the proverbial glove. And of course, it's black. It suits your personality. Or are you in mourning over me? I'd like to be, Lark said. Come now, you two. Let's all try and be civil, shall we? Wade said. Civil? I always am, Mr. Saxby. By the way, where did you get that dinner jacket and trousers? Were they handed down from your grandfather? High waistlines and wider lapels are completely out of style, you know. This dinner jacket may be a little out of style, Mr. Maxwell, but so is this room. The redesign doesn't fit Chatterfield Park in the least. That's your opinion. This decor is the epitome of class, style, and sophistication, and I did it all. I think it's a bit much. The salon used to be, well, understated, Margot said. Much like your dress this evening. Didn't you wear that last season? Now, just a minute, Mr. Maxwell. Margot dresses beautifully. She looks stunning in anything she wears. I meant no offense, and I agree. Your wife's a lovely girl. She could make a shower curtain look fabulous. Unlucky for her, as I understand, your funds are limited, Mr. Saxby. What do you mean by that? Wade said, just as Nivens, the butler, banged a brass gong. Dinner is served, Niven said. Saved by the bell, Oscar, Liam said, or the gong, as the case may be. Let's all go through into the dining room, shall we?
Oh my gosh, you are my favorite reader. You are. Every time I listen to you read, I just crack up.
Aw,
And they're so vicious, David. I know it's a mystery, but goodness, the social commentary there. That was fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have MJ Williamz.
My name's MJ Williamz. I'm going to be reading from Chasing Her Scent, which came out in November. Here's the cover for it. Can you see that? There we go. The book is about Lisette, who owns a small bookstore in Quebec City, and Sheridan, who's a neurosurgeon from Houston, who happens to be in Quebec City for a conference. Sheridan happens to hold the key that unlocks a box, a mysterious box that's been in a hidden room in the bookstore for several years now. They open it, they find a treasure map, they find a locket with a picture of Marie Antoinette, and they find a vial of Marie Antoinette's perfume in there. The map is really hard to read, so they go to the library and they look up maps of Canada, and they try to find maps that kind of look the same as the faded parchment map. And their first stop and it's a jaunt all over Canada trying to find this, where the map is, where the treasure is, all that. The first stop is Halifax, and we're going to read about that right now. They took a taxi into town and walked around the neighborhood until they found a restaurant for lunch. While they waited for their meals, they looked at pictures of the original map and compared them to the map of Nova Scotia they had. I wish we had measurements, said Lisette. We don't know how far a kilometer is, a meter, or anything else. How are we supposed to figure out exactly what the X is? We just need to make an educated guess, said Sheridan. What if we're wrong? What if this isn't even the right place? We can't think like that. We only have a few hours left to determine if whatever it is buried here. We can't give up. After lunch, they walked a short distance to the cathedral. As they opened the heavy wooden door, Lisette's heart raced. They could very well find the answer to the riddle in just a few minutes. She could barely contain her excitement. They sat together in a pew and stared at the maps. I think it's where the altar is, said Sheridan. How can you be sure? Look. She turned the map sideways. Here's the X. It looks like it's right about where the altar is. Let's go look at the altar then. Right, come on. They approached the altar, and Sheridan kept her hearing on alert in case anyone else happened to come into the cathedral. She didn't want trouble, and she was fairly certain a lesbian couple snooping around the altar in a cathedral was begging for trouble. They stopped at the communion rail and looked at each other. Come on, Lisette tugged on her hand. Let's look. Yep, let's do this. They walked around the altar with Sheridan focused on the base, as if she expected to see an opening there with the treasure buried within. Lisette tapped on the sides of the altar, checking to see if it sounded hollow at any point. Sheridan was on the far side of the altar on hands and knees, certain she'd see a clue when she heard a voice. "What do you think you're doing?" She quickly stood and saw the nun from the office carrying a vase of flowers. "We're looking for something?" Sheridan said lamely. "Did you lose something? And if you lost it on the altar, where you shouldn't have been in the first place, then it's gone for good." "No, ma'am," Sheridan said. "Look, we can explain." "You better be able to. Come to the office. Now." Sheridan had heard of scary nuns before, but had never experienced one until then. She was terrified of the older woman in the penguin suit. While she truly believed she and Lisette had done nothing wrong, she wasn't so sure the nun would listen, never mind understand. They were directed to sit in hard wooden chairs where Sheridan sat up straight and tried to appear unintimidated. She hoped it was working. "You were trespassing," said the nun. "The cathedral is open to the public." "Not the altar. And from the looks on your faces when I caught you, you both knew what you were doing was wrong." "But we have a really good reason," said Lisette. "I've called the cardinal. When he gets here, you can explain." Great. They were being passed up the food chain. Sheridan tried to quell the panic rising inside her. She'd never met a cardinal before and didn't have any desire to meet one now. Unfortunately, she didn't have a choice. "I don't think it's necessary to disturb his eminence," said Lisette. "We really can't explain." "Silence," said the nun. "He's already been disturbed and he's not happy about it." The door opened and a large older gentleman wearing a black cassock strolled in. "Are these the two?" he said. He looked at the nun, not even sparing a glance at either of them. "Yes, sir." He turned to face them. "You were attempting to deface my altar?" "No, sir," said Lisette. "We wouldn't." "I expected you to say that. Nevertheless, you were caught red-handed. I'm tempted to call the police." "You don't look like the run-of-the-mill vandals, but I can't be too careful." "Your Honor," Sheridan said. "Eminence, your eminence, not your honor," said the cardinal. "Oh, sorry." She went on. "Here's the situation. We found a map that we believe shows where something is buried. We believe it has something to do with Marie Antoinette. We believe it was buried before the church was built, and according to our map, it would be right about where your altar is." "You have a map?" The cardinal arched an eyebrow at her. "Yes, sir," said Lisette. She handed him the map they had of Halifax. "This means nothing to me." Sheridan took out her phone and showed him the picture of the map on the parchment. "It's the same shape," she said. "So it is. Where did you find this map?" He pointed to her phone. "In an old room in the bookstore I own in Quebec City." "And why do you think it has something to do with Marie Antoinette?" "We found a locket with the picture of her with the map." "I don't know," said the cardinal. "It all sounds far-fetched, and it seems like a lot of work to cover for a little vandalism." "It wasn't vandalism," said Sheridan. "We were just looking to see if there was an opening or a secret compartment." "Are either of you even Catholic?" he said. "I was raised Catholic," said Lisette. He nodded but didn't say anything. Sheridan, determined to win him over, went on. "Surely you can understand what we were doing." He exhaled heavily. "Unfortunately, I believe I do. You're in the wrong place, though. I assure you nothing was buried anywhere near here. We would have dug it up when we were laying the foundation. So I can assure you the fact that your map looks like it would lead to our altar is strictly coincidental. You're both excused, but if I see either one of you around here again, we will notify the police. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes," Sheridan said, grateful to be out of the wooden chair. Lisette joined her and they left the office. "That was a fucking nightmare," said Sheridan. "Tell me about it." "Thank you."
Thank you. I feel like somebody is hiding something. I don't know. Like, is there something under the altar? I'm not convinced there isn't. He might be hiding something. I guess I'll have to read the book to find out. Next up, we have Nicole Disney.
So I'm going to be reading from Tap Out today. This is a follow-up to The Clinch, but it also stands alone. And this is a story about Layla, who has wanted to be an MMA fighter really her entire life, and just recently had the opportunity to realize that dream with a really important fight. But instead of winning and breaking through, she lost horribly. So she's literally beaten up and broken down and thinking she's going to walk away from this dream. But her friend Takes this as an opportunity to take her to an underground fight ring for some fun, where she meets the founder of this fight ring. So this is just after they've watched the fights, and she looks up and her friend is gone. The heat of broken bodies fumes from the earth like fog in a graveyard. The cage is empty, of rusted combat shell, spots of blood dry into dark dots of battle rain. The people have dispersed, the loud ones and the drunk ones and the jokers drained into the street, and now it's all money changing hands and shadows. I scan for Vic, who was in just such a conversation 5 minutes ago with some guy, but now she's nowhere. I've never struggled to find my place in a room. For better or worse, approachable has always been one of my leading qualities, but no one looks open or friendly or even like they're having fun. Instead, it only feels darker and more illicit with every passing minute. My stomach sinks. My heart beats faster as I turn into a lost puppy, an odd feeling, as if I don't know my way home. I know how to behave after dark, but this yard of glass and thorns is menacing and ready to taste me. I don't know whether to worry or fume that Vic has vanished. I survey the corners again, listen for her voice. Damn it, Vic. I spin straight into a hard body, Harlow's body. I bounce off her, stunned and embarrassed. She looks stunned too, and something tells me that's an expression that doesn't grace her face often. Shit, sorry. You look like you're about to make a run for it, Moretti. Are you okay? Have you seen Vic? Understanding fills her face, and I know Vic is gone before she answers. She was walking off with Sam like 15 minutes ago. Was she your ride? Who the fuck is Sam? Her eyes are so expressive I can see how belligerent she finds the question. Are you serious? I try instead. I could be wrong. We both know she isn't wrong, but I want an explanation I know she can't give for what was so pressing to my friend who dragged me here that she would ditch me now without a word. Vic can be a bit of a wild card, Harlow says. Her face is full of calm sincerity. She's tall and solid and somehow comforting, even though she makes me self-conscious in a way I can't understand. There's a bright, almost reflective quality to her blue-gray eyes. Looking into them, I get the feeling she knows Vic much better than I realized. Sure, if by wild card you mean stinking, rotten egg asshole, Harlow beams. You have a way with words. I have a way with ridiculous situations. I guess I can stop waiting around like a dipshit. Thanks for letting me crash the fights. Vic obviously sprung it on you like the rotten ass she is. Harlow smirks. Stick around another 5 minutes. I'll give you a ride. She offers all smooth and casual, yet my response still comes out like a choked, sputtering engine. She wasn't my ride, really. We took an Uber. I can walk home. I'm close. She tilts her head and clicks her tongue. You know better than that. It's late and sketchy out there, and I'd be willing to bet your legs are still too shot to run if you needed to. I scoff in exaggerated offense. My legs are fine. Your legs were shaking like a chihuahua at a fireworks show when you came in here. Fuck you. I punch her arm. When my fist connects, it jolts me awake to the fact that I don't know her like that, but she's smiling and grounded. Fine. Thank you. Sorry, I say. Don't be. You can help me fold this if it's really breaking you up. She grabs one end of the chain link fence and nods at the other. I grab the next panel, walking it flat against hers, then pull in the next. So, she says, how do you like it? What? The event. Oh, well, it was interesting. Interesting? She raises an eyebrow, so sure of herself. Of course, interesting isn't a strong enough word for what I just witnessed. It was brutal and lawless, and infiltrating anything so clandestine is exhilarating. It was real and raw in a way that transcends savagery. Did the gutter scrappers entertain? She asks. I sigh and press the next fence panel to her chest, look straight into her eyes. It's possible I shouldn't have called them that. She smiles. It's possible. Anyone who steps into the cage deserves respect. I know that, even if it is in a backyard. Is that you trying to be nice? She's not wrong. That was a sad attempt at manners, if that's what it was. They entertained. I try again. They fight hard, like you said. The gore of a street fight, but some of them have some real skills. She grabs the stacked fence by the sides and picks up 4 panels in an easy motion before carrying it off to the shed and back, not even having the decency to struggle. Apparently, she doesn't just look strong. She returns and takes another stack of the remaining panels before it occurs to me I was probably supposed to help her. I'm just standing like an idiot watching her muscles flex when I realize I should have done that. So, you're a fighter or what? I call to her back. You think so? She returns. Well, are you? She disappears into the shed for a moment, re-emerging, dusting her hands off on her jeans. Car's this way. I roll my eyes and follow her. I'd be willing to bet that's a habit of hers. A tingle of mischief flares at the prospect of trying to pry something real out of her. She rounds the house to the opposite side where an old Mercedes sits in overgrown weeds, looking like it might have sprung from the earth itself. Does it run? If it likes you? Harlow winks and opens the driver's door as I realize I've managed to insult her yet again. I kick myself and slide into the passenger seat, thinking maybe it's best if I just stop talking. The interior is really nice, black leather and more gadgets than I expected. Maybe it was just the surroundings that made it look like it might have a hornet's nest in the back. Where to? She asks. To the right, then left at the light. The car comes to life with the spirit that confirms it probably doesn't in fact have to approve of your personality to do so. It's a nice car, I say. I didn't mean anything by that. I don't even have a car. Harlow puts it in drive before she looks over. I don't blame you. It can be a pain parking the thing. I can't afford it, I say. The fact that my lack of a vehicle isn't a trendy New York decision, but a direct reflection of my financial prowess feels like a truth that has to be expelled. Why not? The question disarms me. I used to have a car, but it was a beater, and when the transmission gave out a year ago, neither fixing nor replacing it was an option. Because they're expensive. Apartments are expensive. Training more than you work is expensive. Phone, internet, electricity. Got it. Sorry. I just figured you were bankrolled out of those kinds of worries with your gym doing so well. Well, it's not my gym, it's my coach's gym. But you work there. I just figured Eden took care of you, being as close as you are and having so much time in. I work the desk. It's not a glamour position. She pays me more than she has to, and she gives me a lot of private training, but I'm not rolling in it. Understood. She's a good person. The brake lights ahead illuminate her face in red as her eyebrows raise. I'm sure she is. So what's the deal with you two? What deal? She asks. You obviously have some sort of deal. Why aren't you allowed in the gym? I'm not allowed in the gym? Well, Vic made it sound that way. Did she? The brake lights flare again and accentuate the contours of her strong arm. I find myself wanting to test the power of it, but I grab my wandering mind. There is palpable weirdness around Harlow and Eden. I'm not imagining it. Are you playing dumb with me? What's your deal with Eden? She asks. She's my trainer and my boss and my very good friend. Yet things aren't good between you. Says who? Well, Vic making it sound that way. Harlow seems tickled to echo me. Is never answering a question some kind of sport for you? It snipes out harsher than I intended, and the way her face turned serious makes me regret that she didn't miss it. My fighters aren't broke, Harlow says. I sigh at the non sequitur and want to tell her she's only gotten away with being this frustrating her whole life because she's gorgeous. Something tells me the response isn't meant to be as evasive or as pointy as it strikes me. I called myself broke, and she basically said I shouldn't be, yet all I heard was that I'm a loser and my friend is cheap. Yeah, well, maybe I'll come fight for you then. She scoffs. Why would you do that, Miss UFC? I scoff back. You saw my fight. My chances with the UFC are shot. For a mortal, maybe, but you're on the Eden Bauer train. What does that even mean? She's their darling. She'll get you another chance, she says. That's not how it works. She smiles again, like it's just for her, which makes me realize I might be watching her face more than you could strictly call normal. I look back to the road and realize she passed my turn, which makes a lot of sense since I've been neglecting my one job of directing her. Next left. Being the darling is everything, Harlow says. It's more than winning, even. She says it like it's a known fact, and I don't know what to make of that. Eden was a darling, if by darling you mean well-liked, but she was also undefeated, so you can hardly separate the two. In any case, I'm not a darling. I'm nobody. What are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating anything. I'm saying it's a business, and your trainer happens to have made the UFC a truckload of money. If she asks them to give you another shot, they will. Maybe not tomorrow, but it'll happen. If you want the UFC so bad, just stick with her. Horrified sounds dramatic, but a huge piece of me is exactly that. Every aspect of my training has imbued martial arts, particularly competition, with a near sacred eminence. It cannot be faked or counterfeit. There is a single and direct route to the top, and that route is to win. No one can do it for you, but do it enough and you will rise to the peak. Fail to do it and you will disappear. It's pure and fair and objective, and one of the few monolith ambitions that is not subject to simply knowing the right person. Yet here she is, saying it is, and with an unnamed authority I don't understand. Left, I say, and she smirks because of course she knows I just doubled back, but she doesn't comment. I'd hate to see how you take bad news, Harlow says. Sorry, but getting a free pass in a year or two because my coach is famous isn't exactly good news to me, even if I believed you, which I don't. And don't worry, I got your message loud and clear that you don't want me fighting for you both times you said it. You think I suck. You don't have to pretend to be doing me a favor. My place is right here. You can stop. She comes to a stop. I can see she feels bad, but the idea of her trying to comfort me just sounds even more embarrassing than this whole night has already been. In just a few hours, I've managed to show up at her event, an uninvited, shaky, bruised, televised loser, get ditched by my own friend, admitted to being too broke to own a car, forgotten where I live, and been snubbed by a backyard organization that was beneath me 3 days ago. I open the door and spring out as fast as my shaky chihuahua legs will let me.
That's awesome. Thank you. You write such great banter.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Sam Ledel. Hello. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, today I will be reading from Discovering Gold, my latest historical romance. Y'all can see that here. This story takes place in a small Colorado mining town in the 1920s. It follows Julia Holt, a rowdy cowgirl trying to outrun her past, and Eleanor Perry, a single mother who works as the mine's laundress. At this point in the story that I'm going to be reading from, Julia and Eleanor have met one another, and they've had a few less than stellar and smooth encounters, so they are still a bit wary of one another. And this reading is from Eleanor's point of view. Footsteps sounded on the pebbled road that led to her front porch. Eleanor listened, then wiped her hands on her apron as a gentle knock sounded at the door. It was probably Sue, though it seemed a little early after the 10 o'clock church service for her weekly drop-in. Opening the door, she asked, "Did you skip the sermon this morning?" "Oh." She blinked at Julia Holt standing on her front porch. Her posture struck Eleanor first, astoundingly casual now that she was outside of the stuffy mill office. Her trousers were cuffed over a pair of dark leather boots laced high above her ankles. Her other hand ran quickly through her hair that she wore down, the tresses eager to catch each breeze that ran through them. The gesture made the buttons down the front of her shirt pull taut for just a moment around her chest. Eleanor cut her gaze back up to Julia's eyes. Once again, they sat over the most inviting smile. "I've skipped more than one Sunday sermon," Julia said. "Looks like you're not much for morning service either." Eleanor smiled. "Apologies, I thought you were someone else. Is now a bad time?" Julia peeked over Eleanor's shoulder. "You busy?" Eleanor wanted to say yes. There was no way she should spend time with Julia, the one person she had been warned to stay away from. Sue's voice was in her head. "She's a felon, But curiosity won the internal struggle, along with the tickle of guilt remaining from their last interaction. Eleanor opened the door more. "No, just preparing a few things while the laundry soaks. Please come in, Miss Holt. Call me Julia." Inside, Julia glanced around. For some reason, Eleanor felt self-conscious of her sparse living space and kitchen. It had been some time since anyone besides Sue had come around. Tucking hair behind her ear, she put the kettle on the stove. "Would you like some tea?" "Sure." Julia took a seat at the table. Eleanor felt her gaze on her as she found 2 teacups. "Sue, Mrs. Weldon, typically comes by after church on Sundays. That's who I thought you were." Julia was looking around the room, seeming to assess the wood floors, the faded, floral patterned wallpaper above the stairwell, and the open back door when she said, "I won't keep you long then. Would hate to intrude on the ladies' lunch hour." Eleanor snorted a laugh, catching Julia's pleased smile. "I'm glad to see you, actually." She felt warm at Julia's expectant brow. Eleanor started to count again, then realized her hand was visible. Quickly, she grabbed the kettle. "I meant to apologize for the way I spoke to you the other day at the office. Well, it had been a rough few days, and I tend to be a bit apprehensive when I don't know where Peter is." "I'm sure most mothers are like that." Shaking her head, Eleanor joined her and said, "I snapped at you. I'm sorry." Julia's smile softened as they looked at each other. Realizing she could hear the blood rushing in her ears, Eleanor asked, "What?" Julia looked down. "It's just funny. I came here for the same reason." "You did?" She leaned back in her chair, folding her hands in her lap. "I have a reconciliation gift." Julia reached into her pocket, meeting Eleanor's gaze again. "You really don't have to do that. I'm the one who lost my temper." Julia presented a handkerchief. She set it on the table, unfolding the cloth to reveal a small pastry. The golden crust gleamed. "It's not much, but my friend insists the blackberries are some of the best in the Rockies." Eleanor, unsure what to say, only sat looking between the fruit tart and Julia, who pushed it closer. Seeming to sense her uncertainty, Julia added, "Is Peter home? Thought maybe he'd like to try this." "Oh, it's for Peter." Unsure why such a sentiment stung, Eleanor added a bit of sugar to her cup. "He's not home. He sometimes visits the hot springs on Sunday mornings with Mr. Weldon, who takes in the water for his joints." "I see. Haven't had the pleasure of visiting there yet." Julia tapped the table, leaning forward. "Well, More for you then. Passing Julia the sugar, Eleanor said, "That's too kind. Would a felon extend such a gesture?" Sue didn't know what she was talking about. Eleanor was certain. Not to mention, Julia had willingly thrown herself in front of a horse for a book. That was hardly deviant behavior. She stirred a teaspoon of milk into her tea, watching the colors swirl together. "I feel I can hardly accept your gift. I should be the one offering something to you. You've been kind to me twice now." Julia took a sip of the tea, and Eleanor didn't miss the small scrunch of her nose. It was adorable. "Twice?" Her eyes flashed with recognition. "Oh, that day in the street." Eleanor studied her cup, her lips pursed, pleased. Julia did recall their first meeting. "Yes, you saved me from an awkward encounter with my friend, returning a ruined book." "Happy I could help," Julia replied, adding quickly, "Not sure how I assisted with Peter, though." Eleanor wondered at her pushing the subject along. "I was brusque with you, and all you were doing was entertaining my son. He ran off with you so willingly." She said the last part quietly, almost absent-mindedly. "He's a sweet kid." She grinned, and Eleanor couldn't resist matching it. "You were only being his mother. You didn't know where he was, and I came in and skipped off with him without your permission. Though I didn't realize he was yours." She met her gaze, then slid it briefly to Eleanor's left hand. "Might have guessed, though, from that hair of his. And he has your eyes." Eleanor blushed at the observation. "He did get those from me. But that's precisely it. You didn't know." "Still," Julia said, her gaze falling and a sudden darkness drifting over her face, "I should have known better. I have a knack for that. A knack for jumping in before I look at where I'll fall." Her words were innocuous, but Eleanor felt an undercurrent of something slip through the air between them. "So this is my truce," said Julia, gesturing to the pastry. She cleared her throat and seemed to hesitate before adding, "They're from the Davies Bakery on 4th Street. Do you know it?" "I do. Haven't been by in some time, though." "Well, that same friend told me about the church social." Julia's bright gaze found hers. "Thought I'd see if you wanted to go." Eleanor blinked. Was she asking to accompany her, or just asking if she planned to attend? "I haven't been to a church social since—" She wondered how much Julia knew about her and Louis. Deciding against sharing too much too soon, she said, "Since before Peter was born. I'm not sure I'd know many people." "You'd know me," Julia said, "and that friend of yours, Mrs. Weldon." "That's true." She considered it, running a finger over the handle of her teacup. Maybe it was time, she thought. Peter might enjoy it. Plus, there was always a good homemade meal available. "I'll think about it." Julia's eyebrow quirked, her lips parting in what seemed like surprise, like she wasn't used to people not saying yes. "Well, don't think too hard." She stood. "Let me know what you and Peter think of the pastry," she said, pointing to the tart. "There's more where that came from, if you like it." Again, the remark seemed innocent enough, but Eleanor snapped her gaze from the open neck of Julia's shirt back to her eyes that gleamed playfully. All she managed was a nod before Julia thanked her for the tea. "See you tomorrow, Mrs. Perry." "See you around, Miss Holt." Julia had started to go, but turned pointedly. "Sorry, Julia." Julia grinned and wandered away down the drive. Returning to the table, Eleanor eyed the pastry a moment before taking a bite. The berry sweetness burst over her tongue, mingling with the delicately buttered crust. Her eyes closed, and she let the flavors consume her. Her mind cleared, save for one sudden, desperate question. Did Julia taste as sweet as this?
Oh, that's so sweet. I love historicals for that reason. There's just a different vibe, like there's banter, but it's just nice and sweet and easy and two very sensible women.
Yes.
That's awesome. And we are perfectly on time, which is a total fluke. Thank you all so much. Please do check out their books in the chat if you would like to pick them up. They are on sale all weekend, and also all of our 2025 books through March of 2026. We have one more panel tonight if you would like to stick around in about 9 minutes, called Love and Labels. So I hope to see you there, and thank you again to our panelists.
Thanks, everyone. Great books. I'm looking forward to reading them.